homage to the lineage gurus, homage to the Venerable Mang Liaoming, homage to Master Sakya Tsongkhong, homage to His Eminence the 16th Karmapa, and to Master Thupten Dorji. Homage to the three jewels of the altar. And homage to the four heavenly kings, to the Vaishravana heavenly king, Virudaka heavenly king, Dhataraštra heavenly king, and Virupaksa heavenly king. And homage to the heavenly world deities. And Simu, all Dharma masters, Dharma educators, Dharma teachers, Dharma instructors, Dharma assistants, temple directors, all disciples present here and over the internet. And our participating VIPs today are the wife of the representative of Taiwan to Sweden, Dharma Sister Judy. Accountant to the True Buddha Foundation, Dharma Sister Teresa and her husband, Larry. And from CTI TV Taiwan, producers for Kenny and Sang Shinton, Dharma Sister Rebecca Shiachi. And a Latin from Malaysia, Li Qing, and her daughter, Li Qi. And Sunny Line Dance Group, Dharma Sister Lin Yishen, Dharma Sister Cai Meiyue, Dharma Sister Huang Qiang, Dharma Brother Liang, Dharma Brother Huang Qi-en, and the law advisor to the True Buddha Foundation, Dharma Sister Jennifer Zhou, and Dr. Hong, the dentist from Sanyi, Taiwan. I would especially like to announce. No. That next week, June 12th, is the White Lotus King Homa fire offering ceremony. And it was transmitted in Hong Kong before. So there will be the White Lotus King Homa fire offering ceremony. I don't want to force you to become the primary supplicants. However, if you close your arms to White Lotus King, then of course your affinity with Padma Kumara is also further away. So good afternoon, everybody. So today, seated here, I'm not shedding tears, but I'm sweating. That I didn't think that it was like a barbecue just now, and I was the one that was being barbecued, and my eyes were closed. I didn't want to look at the fire. It was too hot. So you're holding something to fan yourself. It's really hot. The weather is very strange recently. When it's hot, it's really hot. And when it's cold, it's quite cold. So please make sure that you adjust appropriately. Although the air is good here in America, and we have lots of trees with lakes and mountains, very beautiful here. But you should also be careful about the weather changes. You know, in the dirty air, there are lots of germs, but in the clean air, they also could be quite toxic, like the pollens and perhaps other things too. So please pay attention to your well-being. And today we had the Homa of the heavenly wealth deities, or Vaishravana, is one of them, and the mantra. Om Pe Shawa Naya Swaha. And Yellow Jambala's mantra, Om Jambala Chalang Chanaya Soha. Actually, these two mantras are the same. So the Yellow Jambala and the Vaishravana are the same, one and the same. Not very many people knew, because Cai Bao Tian Wang in Chinese actually is also Jambala, or Vaishravana, the heavenly king of the north. So in Tibetan, sometimes they have different names, but actually they're the same deity. Like when we talk about Vajra hand Bodhisattva, Vajra heart Bodhisattva, and Vajrasattva are actually the same deity, but the mantras are different. And for the heavenly wealth deity, he's special. He's riding on a snow lion. That's what is unique about him. And there are also other heavenly wealth deities that are not riding on snow lions. But this deity is always stepping on a lotus blossom below his foot, one of his feet. So that's what's special about him. And I've said before that Guru Tsongkhapa, his earliest guru, was called Ren Qin. Yes. Tunzu Ren Qin. So I was right. Tunzu Ren Qin Rinpoche, that was his first guru, who bestowed empowerment upon him, was on the Cai Bao Tian Wang, which is the heavenly wealth deity, or Vaishravana. So that's why he was endowed with enough resources to perform the Dharma work. So Vaishravana is the same as the yellow Jambala, and among the 8 primary deities, there is yellow Jambala. So why don't we have white Jambala, red Jambala, black Jambala, and instead we selected especially the yellow Jambala as one of the 8 primary deities. because most wealth deities are wearing yellow color. So that's why I thought the yellow one is the primary one, because red Jambala is red, the green Jambala is green, the black Jambala is black. The white Jambala is white. So think about it. In terms of wealth and fortunes, yellow is the key color, and red is primarily for magnetization, magnetizing, and yellow is mostly for enhancement or enrichment Dharma practices, and red is for magnetizing Dharma practices. Black or blue is for subjugation Dharma practices, and white is for purification Dharma practices. That's why I chose yellow Jambala. And Vaishravana is also the yellow Jambala, and that's the primary reasons why I chose yellow Jambala. And Vaishravana, the heavenly king of the north, of the four heavenly kings, he's the one holding a parasol. And according to the Taoist tradition, Li Jing, he belongs to the four heavenly kings, and he's considered as yellow Jambala or Vaishravana. Li Jin or Tota, heavenly king, which is Naja, the third prince. So Jin Cha is the first prince, Mu Cha is the second prince, and Na Cha is the third prince. And they're called Li Jin. He's also called Li Jin. And in Chinese it's called the Tota, heavenly king. And actually it's also Vaishravana. So that's also the reason why I selected the yellow Jambala in the mudra. So close to Golden Mother's mudra, but only the pinkies are interlacing, and the ring fingers and the middle fingers are upright and touching each other's. And the thumbs are like this. Slight difference. And this is the mudra for Vaishravana. And his look, as you could see, what I found interesting is why the altar set up here. Like today we have the yellow Jambala, Vaishravana, and the heavenly wealth deities ceremony, but why is he wearing red? The altar here below, he's wearing red. Why? Who set up the altar here? We learned from Taiwan Lezang Temple. Why? Why did you learn from them? This is America. They often make mistakes at the Taiwan Lezang Temple. Even the color or the surrounding circles, they often make mistakes there. So why? And what you hold in your hands are the correct ones. But the red one that you learn from Taiwan Lezang Temple. Oh, jeez. You learn from each other, but mistakes. Is that right or wrong? So which wealth deity is that on the altar below? Who could recognize him? He's not red Jambala either, but he's wearing red. Master Lian Ning explained it well. Because the weather is too hot, everybody becomes red. Okay, well, whatever. Don't try to get answers because it'll be endless. So, at the Taiwan Lijiang Temple, for wealth deities, there would be the most primary supplicants, like the red Manohara, wealth-attracting goddess, the yellow Jambala. There would be very many primary supplicants. But in Seattle, America, there are only few and far in between. Because everybody is values righteousness over money. So we who's living in America or Seattle or Canada place more importance on loyalty and brotherhood instead of money, or self-sacrifice instead of money. And there are very few primary supplicants. I thought that today it's so hot. If there are so many primary supplicants, that I would feel hot. But it turned out there are only 2 or 3 primary supplicants, and that's it. So, of course, in Taiwan, the Tibetan Rinpoche is coming to Taiwan. The father of the wealth deity, and wealth deity's son, which is the white Jambala, they all come. And the grandson of the heavenly wealth deity. So from all generations are considered as the heavenly wealth deities. So it's like a series of wealth. So Vaisravana has a father. So you create the father of yellow Jambala and create the grandfather of yellow Jambala, and then you create the son of yellow Jambala and the grandson of yellow Jambala, and you perform a series of them. So when this Tibetan Rinpoche is leaving Taiwan, luggages would be very heavy because everybody loves wealth deities. But in Seattle, it's really poor and dry. Well, forget about the yellow Jambala. Let's talk about Lamdre. So, the Lamdre Vajra verses were authored by Virupa. And Virupa was an Indian. So the Vajra verses, and the verses are very short, like 7 characters or 5 characters or 9 Chinese characters long, verse by verse. And the original Lamdre wasn't a prose, an article, but it was in verses of 9 or 7 Chinese characters long, and they're not very long. and only a few short sheets of papers, but each verse has lots of meanings. That's why it became the Lamdre. But the original Vajra verses are not many, not too much. And the author was Virupa, whose biography and lineage was quite confusing. And I admit this. And India was very strange. Quite befuddling. So like the 5,000 years of China history, all the dynasties, those were all the dynasties in China for the past 5,000 years. And they were all recorded clearly, but not in India. So let's take an example of Sakyamuni Buddha. It was also quite blur and disconcerting. So when you research the Indian history, so King Suddhodana, which was the father of Sakyamuni Buddha, and his relative is the king, white and green and yellow. So King Suddhodana, or in Chinese sounds like the white Fan Wang, that's the father of Sakyamuni Buddha. But if you check Indians' history to see which era he comes from, it's unclear. It didn't exist in the records. So if it's not the white rice, it's play of words in Chinese, that it must be the brown rice. These days, all different kinds of rice these days. So the history in India wasn't very clear. So we all know Sakyamuni Buddha was born in the area which is now Nepal, at the Lumbini Park, which is now part of Nepal. Do you know when exactly he was born? It was quite confusing. And in each country, we celebrate it differently. Like in Indonesia, the day that they choose to celebrate Buddha's birthday is different from the one in Taiwan or China or Tibet. There is no exact date. So he was born in the summer. So like now, like Grandmasters on the 18th day of the 5th lunar month, and that's the same as June 27th in the Gregorian calendar, but for this year that would be different. That would be June 22nd this year. That's also in the summer. So when was Sakyamuni Buddha born? So let me ask you one more question. who is his wife, really? Everybody said Yasodhara, but no. She was just a concubine. His true wife was a princess. And what was her name? Let me test you. Because I also forgot. You would just say whatever and I would say yes. So his real wife was a princess. And the 8 main princes fought to marry that princess, but not Yasodhara, not the real queen. She was just the concubine. So Buddha's biography was also quite confusing. So who really Sakyamuni Buddha, who was he really? From which era or period nobody knew. So Indians' history and records are quite confusing. So that's why the same for Virupa. And I believe this because that's the case for India. Always confusing. So when we went to Varanasi, the Deer Park, an ancient town in India, the first place when Sakyamuni Buddha taught Buddha Dharma to the 5 bhikkhus is at the Deer Park, and that was in Varanasi. And the sound in Chinese, Varanasi, sound like they're all having diarrhea except Grandmaster. But you can go ahead. So Varanasi has a history of 5,000 years. Isn't that strange? So Indians' history may be even longer than China's history. Is that recorded in history? Don't know. Oh, that's all very befuddling. So it doesn't matter about his life story or lineage, but in the Sakya Lamdre lineage guru's record indicated that Virupa was born into the king Suvarna Chakra. There were 4 classes in India. The first class is the spiritual practitioners, and the second is the royalty. And the third is for the merchants and traders or businessmen, and the fourth are the laborers. So there are still 4 castes in India even now. And they don't intermarry. That the laborers or the Sudras or the slaves are always the slaves, and the Kshatriyas, the royalties are always the royalties. So it's very strange. That's how it is in India. So at that time, Sakyamuni Buddha break through all these 4 different castes. So Virupa was born into the Sattviya class of the King Suvarna Chakra, and he renunciated and let go of his throne, entered into the famous Nalanda University and received bhikkhu ordination following Jayadeva or Dharmamitra. So we've been to Nalanda University, and these days what's left is just a few rocks and weeds and bricks. That's it. So Nalanda Monastery or University was the most historical temple that groomed Buddhists. So anyone that could enter Nalanda University was the most important people, and he was named Dharmapala. So his guru Jayadeva, he served his guru until the end of the guru's life, and as instructed, he took on the seat as the head of all Panditas at Nalanda universities. So in the Sakya school, there is a patriarch called Sakya Pandita. So those with the most wisdom is called Pandita. So in today's time, we could call them academian. Like in the academia field, you could it's above the PhDs. So Panditas are the highest ones with the greatest wisdom. So he is the head of all Panditas, so he is even higher than the Panditas. So that was the Dharmapala, which is also Virupa. So Virupa was the head. So when he entered Nalanda temple, when he just entered Nalanda University, Jayadeva, his guru, instructed Dharmapala on the yoga practice of chakra samvara. This is very strange, because at that time most temples belonged to the Mahayana tradition. But he had tantric practice, so Jayadeva had the tantric practice of chakra samvara. So he practiced chakra samvara until he became the abbot of the temple. So Dharmapala or Virupa continually practiced chakra samvara for a long period of time. Have you ever seen the mandala or altar of chakra samvara? And Grandmaster had never transmitted chakra samvara and guya samaya. But have you seen the mandala of chakra samvara? In Grandmaster's room, there is a mandala of chakra samvara. Have you ever seen the mandala of chakra samvara? No. Anyone? at the Samye temple or Samye monastery, which was built by Guru Padmasambhava, the King Trisongtachin, and Santa Rakshita. And inside it, there was the mandala of Chakrasamvara, and that was in Tibet. Of course, it's no big deal seeing that in Tibet, because that's the mandala of the Kagyu, or the white school, Kagyupa. So in upstate New York, what was that place called? I always forgot it. Woodstock. What do you call it? Woodstock. So can I transliterate Woodstock into Nasitage in Chinese? There is at the top of the hill in Woodstock, there was KTD, which is Karma Triyana Dhammachakra monastery belonging to the Karmapa. And the one who offered the Dharma throne to the Karmapa was a very famous Buddhist disciple in America called, not Zhang Chenji, because he was poor, not him. Is Mr. Sen Jiazhen, which was a rich man. So he bought an old hotel and changed it into the Karma Triyana Dhammachakra monastery, KTD. And inside it, there was a mandala of Chakrasamvara. You don't need to go to Tibet to see it, you can go there. Because in Kagyupa, the only Herukar in Kagyupa is Chakrasamvara. And in Sakya sect, they primarily focus on Hevajra. And the Kagyupa is Chakrasamvara. And in Grandmaster's room, there is the mandala for Chakrasamvara. And I also have images from all the Kagyu traditions, from Tilopa, Naropa, Milarepa, Gampopa, and to Tushong Chenpa, which is the first precious Dharma king, Kamapa. They're all in my altar, on my altar. So Dharmapala practiced Chakrasamvara. Nalanda was the place to teach Buddha Dharma, teaching Yogacara or Madhyamaka teachings. But he was practicing Chakrasamvara of the Tantrayana, and he did not gain any yogic responses or any signs of attainments after a long period of time. So he was grieving. So in his grief, he threw his chanting beads into the latrine, the toilet. He didn't want to practice anymore, because after practicing for so many years, there were no signs whatsoever, and he vowed to abandon his practice and Dharma teaching, or teaching Dharma, because there are no signs whatsoever. And as soon as he threw his chanting beads into the latrine that night, in his dream, Nairatma, the Buddha mother with no ego, appeared. And Nairatma is also from Kagyupa, the white sect. So Naropa, Tilopa, and then Naropa, Marapa. And we also call the wife of Marapa as Nairatma, or in Tibetan, Dakmema. So Nairatma appeared and comforted him and asked him to repent his deed of throwing the chanting beads into the toilet. And she then helped him cleanse his chanting beads using perfume and agreed to empower him so that he can attain Siddhi soon. Siddhi, or attainments. So that's why don't lose hearts in your spiritual cultivation, even when you don't have any signs of attainments, even when you don't have yogic responses. So if you have signs of yogic response, you really should stay committed in the spiritual cultivation, and that's even better if you have yogic responses. So in our spiritual cultivation, the most important thing is this, the perseverance. So Grandmaster, even encountering all kinds of shocks or challenges, continues with his perseverance and willpower. You have to continue with the willpower. So even when you don't have any yogic response, and after practicing for a long time, and you're almost there, and he threw his chanting beads into the toilet, and then Nairatma appeared and encouraged him, asked him to repent, and helped him cleanse the beads, and empowered him, and finally he attained Siddhi. So sometimes in our Dharma practices we encounter all kinds of obstructions, and all different kinds of obstructions would appear to challenge you. Some people, before taking refuge, they're fine. And as soon as they take refuge, they encounter all kinds of obstructions or hindrances. Or prior to having a yogic response, you encounter a tremendous amount of hindrances and obstructions. But you need to stay committed and persevere, pray to the protector to eliminate all the obstructions. You need to overcome them and to stand again and continue. And in the future, you will definitely attain Siddhi, or to attain the attainments. Let me share a joke. The assistant bought a box of goat milk and placed it on his desk, and after coming back from break, lots of them disappeared. And then he announced that anyone that took and stole them should admit and return them. And then he added that I could check the thumbprints on the cardboards. So after lunch, upon returning from lunch, the box disappeared too. So in our Dharma practice, we should not steal. Some people say, there's no need to take refuge or receive empowerment. I know of the mantra, the mudra, or the look, and I even have the practice procedure, and I can just follow. That's as if you're stealing the goat milk. Then you should repent. You should really repent for doing that. That's stealing the Dharma. There's a transgression for stealing the Dharma. If the rules are very strict, set by the Guru, then you need to receive empowerment even to recite the mantra. And even to visualize, you have to follow or to receive the instruction from the Guru. So even to form a mudra, you need to receive empowerment if the Guru is very strict. So to recite the mantra, to visualize, to form the mudra, to perform the practice, you need to receive empowerment. But for us, by receiving an empowerment, you can recite the mantras, you can visualize, you can form the mudras. I teach you all of those. So we should not steal the Dharma. You may say, Grandmaster's Dharma transmissions is all over the internet. You can just get the practice procedure easily. But if you never receive the empowerments, that would be stealing the Dharma. And if you have no lineage, then there would be transgression for stealing the Dharma. So you need to purify yourself first, and then take refuge, and then receive the empowerment. Someone went to see the Great Master. Great Master, I cannot sing, I cannot dance, and I have no humor. How can I attract girls? And the Great Master replied, just cut off the bad costs. Can you pay the bills? Just go straight to the point. So do you have an ATM card? So just hit the target, go straight to the point. What should I do to attract girls? As long as you pay the bills and you have ATM card, that's what the Master said. In studying the Buddha Dharma, we should also get to the point. You want to be like Milarepa, that there are wounds all over his body. When Gampopa left Milarepa, and as he was leaving, they were crossing a bridge, and Gampopa asked Milarepa, Guru, do you have a key or important quintessence pith instructions? Then Milarepa took off his clothes and said, at the place of Marpa, Guru Marpa, I received trainings and I have scars now all over my body. He asked me to build houses, the triangular houses belonging to the fire element, and then taking it down after building it. And then he asked me to build the rectangular houses to enhance my good fortune, and then take it down after building it. And he asked me to build a round building and then taking it down again afterward. And asked me to build a semi-circular building and then taking it down until the whole body of Milarepa was full of scars due to the wounds. So you have to have such perseverance. This is the last fifth instruction taught by Milarepa to Gampopa. So he just took off his shirt and showed him the scars all over his body. So he said at the place of Guru Marpa how he taught me and asked me to build houses and taking it down and building and taking it down and building and taking it down. Actually, the Guru was teaching him to purify, enhance, magnetize, and removing all the hindrances. Is to remove all the obstructions due to his learning the black magics. That the obstructions due to his harming people because of the spells that he learned. So the last fifth instructions was perseverance. So Milarepa took off his shirt and showed him. So from now on, as Gampopa studying the Dharma is to have perseverance. So Gampopa was an ordained bhikkhu, taking refuge in a lay Buddhist, Milarepa. Milarepa never took the ordination vow. After learning the Dharma, he left for home and asked for the last fifth instruction. And it is also what Virupa learned, perseverance, willpower, that was taught by Nairyatma. So Milarepa too taught Gampopa about perseverance. And Marpa was also teaching Milarepa about perseverance. You have to have a strong perseverance in your Buddhist studies in order to attain siddhi. Without perseverance, even if you are amidst the Buddha Dharma, you will not have attained siddhi. So perseverance is the most important fifth instruction. That's all for today. Om Mani Padme Hum.